All right, everybody, welcome to the Yankee and the Brit. I'm Jay, he's Maddie. Thanks for watching, and today we're going to talk about the AFC North and their offseason needs. And Maddie, we'll start with you. Who do you want to start with?
Yeah, we'll go straight in with the Steelers. Probably the biggest stories of coming out of the AFC North have been from the Steelers at the minute, and that's with Big Ben's new contract structure. So, what is he? He's going for $14 million a year, saving them $14 million for 1 year, and then doing some other stuff that I don't understand beyond 2021, which means they free up $15 million in the cap. But the problem with that is, why would you keep Big Ben? I don't understand why you would keep him, to be perfectly honest. His year has been not the best. He's got a QBR rating of 60.1, which is 22nd in the NFL. So I don't know why you'd keep him. It's kind of like there's nobody decent coming out in the draft in 2022. So why wouldn't you get in this draft full of talent in 2021?
I can give you three reasons why I think.
Go.
One, by restructuring him, they were going to have a dead cap at 22. You restructure him, it's 26. So you're literally, if you think in money-wise, you're only paying him $4 million to play quarterback for you.
Yeah.
Tommy John surgery, you're supposed to be way stronger a year after the surgery. So maybe they're banking on a resurgence from Ben's arm. And three, even if you draft a young kid this year, you're not guaranteed it. So you need Ben there to play unless you're going to go with Haskins, which none of us agree that he's the answer. So my theory is almost where they're drafting, they're almost banking on Trey Lance or somebody to fall back to them, pick him up, let him sit behind Big Ben for a year, maybe two, and then move on. But that's just me guessing. And for me, the biggest story with the Steelers is now that Ben's already re-signed, and Steelers fans are going to tell me to fuck myself, but you have to re-sign Juju.
Yeah. The re-signing of Juju, I think, is with the wide receiver pool they kind of had, I'd kind of be tempted to just say no to Juju.
Tag him. Because, and the only reason I say that, because this year with the salary cap going down, the tag on a receiver is like 14 point something. That's cheap. Guys are getting 17, 18, 20. That's why if it wasn't for Shaq Barrett, I think Tampa should get Shaq Barrett and then tag Godwin, because you'll save money by tagging him than what he would get yearly. Granted, with a long-term deal, you can play cap games with the bonuses. But if you're the Steelers, who the hell has been throwing to? And I don't think Juju is a true number one, but I think he's better than a number two.
Yeah, well, I think Claypool's their number one. I think they definitely, Claypool can step up and play number one this year. He was an absolute monster. But to help him do that, you kind of need to keep Juju. But with the wide receiver draft as deep as it is, which we'll go on to talk about a bit later with some of the other teams in the AFC North, then there's a reason to say, kind of get rid of Juju and just draft another, because he's been a problem, I personally think.
Okay, I do. But I think his problems were more of juvenile shit, immaturity. I don't think he's so much a team wrecker. He's not getting arrested like AB was, whatever. But he was his best when AB was on the other side of him. So if Claypool can be that guy, then you'll get the best Juju. And I'm not saying give him a long-term deal. Give him another prove-it year or something, but get that guy back in, because if you want to win, who the hell's Ben going to throw to? And we're in an NFL age now where even if you got two receivers, analysts are still like, they need a third receiver. They need, so it's not even just a two receiver league anymore, unless you're kind of the Ravens, but we'll get to them. It's a 3, 4, even 5 deep receiver league now.
Yeah. And I think that's fair enough kind of on Juju. Like, I would get why they would keep him, but I would personally kind of trade him and just go pick up somebody else, because I think I simply just don't like him. I think that's all it is. I think
if you think you can get somebody else, you get somebody else, I'm all for it. I'm just saying, if you're bringing Ben back, you need to address that offensive line with Pouncey retiring. You can't get Ben killed because he's not mobile, and that dude will stand in the pocket and take hits because he's tough. You can't let that happen with your aging quarterback. So you need offensive line help so much that unless you can get a guy in free agency, I almost think you're really risking waiting till the draft to try to replace Juju only because of your offensive line needs. But again, like we talked about in our last podcast, there's a lot of guards and a couple tackles that are hitting free agency, which we never see. So maybe you can fix, but you have to either fix receiver or offensive line in free agency and really look at the other one in the draft, and they have to figure out how to keep Bud Dupree coming off an injury for that defense.
Yeah, I think there's actually so much that the Steelers have to work on. I think people are kind of sleeping on that. And I genuinely believe that quarterback is their most pressing need to sort out in the offseason, just because of just needing somebody for the future. And their offensive line is obviously most pressing for the present. But if they can pick up somebody in the draft, or if they can get somebody on a cheap deal in free agency, like somebody who I'd like to mention in the podcast as much as we possibly can, but Sam Darnold, Marcus Mariota, those two kind of guys, then if they're available, and then Calvin Mond as well, big shout out to Chris Sims on that one.
Yeah, you guys check out Chris Sims. I don't agree with necessarily the exact order, but I do agree with his top 6, and I think he is very intelligent when he speaks on quarterbacks. And by the time you listen to him, you'll get done going, I need to go watch some YouTube videos on this guy.
Yeah, some film, like as quickly as you possibly can. I think that's their most pressing need to sort out in the offseason, find out who their quarterback's going to be for the future, and sit behind Big Ben. Big Ben's kind of a bridge quarterback now for the year. I don't think the Steelers can seriously think of themselves as a contender. But with all that said, saying that QB is their number one option, I actually don't think that a decent QB will fall to them where they're picking, which is at, where they're picking? The 24th. 24th pick in the draft. I don't think that will fall, but they could fix their offensive line, which you've already mentioned. And Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State Cowboys, I think, is a draft pick that will kind of fit for them. I think he would come down. From what I've seen of him, obviously, I'm the Brit in this podcast, not the Yankee, so it is very difficult for me to watch college football. So I've only got highlight reel stuff. The guy's a big dude. He's 6'6", 320 pounds, or if you're British, he's 6'6" and 22.8 stone. So he's an absolute monster. He's played left and right tackle at college, and first team All Big 12, even though he opted out to get ready for the draft this season. So I think he can kind of really help them.
I don't think that's a bad pick at all. I disagree on where I think they should go.
Yeah.
But I almost think you need to get okay, so offensive linemen are very hard to judge coming out of college. I'll start with that. Unless you're Alabama, Wisconsin, which are running back factories, right? They're hard to judge. So almost think if you can, you pick up, if you lose Bud Dupree, you try to get a linebacker, you try to get something, and then you get those guards and centers, and now tackles grab in the first round. But if you're going for a guard, or if you want to replace Pouncey as center, you can grab those guys in the second, third, fourth round and get them to start. It's just, my team does it. I don't have a problem grabbing an offensive lineman late in the first round. It just scares me because you never know what you're going to get. And I feel like you can get a can't miss defensive player at that point, only because in this draft, it's going to be so quarterback top heavy that it's going to shove defensive players that should have went higher.
Yeah. And I mean, the Steelers are also have a good reputation for developing good offensive linemen. So I think like wherever they take a guy, I'm kind of trusting them to like make the most of him. So, and I think it's such a pressing issue now that their offensive line's kind of falling apart, kind of like my Cowboys. It's a very similar, you think of them as being a good offensive line, but they're getting a bit old. Pouncey's out, so they've lost the general of the O-line. And I just think, and they're like more time for Big Ben to throw, to get his big arm down the field, you know, and with the game that they're doing, like dinking, dunking, that kind of thing. And it will really help with their running game. I think they could do with finding a running back as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say they need to find an explosive back. Nothing against James Conner, and big props, cancer survivor. But like, he is your 3 yards in a cloud of dust back. They need a scat back who can hit that hole and be gone. They need a back that they can do wide receiver screens and pick up 60 yards. They need that. Yeah. But the great thing about running backs is you can find really good ones, 4th, 5th round. Like you don't have to mortgage your future for a running back.
Yeah. Have you got any trades or anything else you want to talk about with the Steelers? Any other off-season ideas for what the Steelers could do to fix their issues?
I think they should call around about quarterbacks, but I don't know what you give up, and now you're stuck with Ben.
Yeah.
So my only thought was, and this was weird, but maybe if Russell sticks with the Seahawks for another year, which is looking less and less likely, maybe then you could go after him next year without the Big Ben. Otherwise, I don't know what you could get for him, but tag and trade Juju if you can't, or tag and trade Bud Dupree if you can't keep him. The only problem with Juju caused problems, so I don't think teams are going to want to give up draft picks and money. And Dupree's coming off a pretty nasty injury, so I don't know what you get for him. I almost think the Steelers are stuck in no man's land, but that's where they thrive. They don't do a bunch of offseason moves. They're going to draft, develop, and their greatness comes from their stability. They've had 3 or 4 coaches in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin, 3 in my lifetime. That's it.
And obviously, we always trust the Steelers to they're one of those organizations that you kind of trust to be in the game and kind of know what they're doing. I personally see this as a rebuilding year. When you think of who's in this AFC North that we're going to be talking about, I think they're going to be missing out on the playoffs this season. They blew an 11-0 lead. If
that's the case, then you're absolutely right. Why the hell did you bring back Big Ben?
I have no idea why they would bring back Big Ben. He blew an 11-0 lead. Like that's the.
If they miss the playoffs or make the first round and get knocked out, you're drafting in no man's land again.
Yeah, he nearly lost to Garrett Gilbert.
Which you almost don't sign him. Let Juju walk. Let Connor walk. Start Dwayne Haskins and hope for that top 5 pick.
Yeah. Alternatively, you ask around to see how much people are willing to trade their picks for so they can get up. But by all accounts, there is enough talent in this quarterback draft that somebody is going to fall. Somebody is going to fall.
I was saying if you miss out on everybody,
then
get rid of Ben, sit them, just throw in the towel and try to develop young guys while losing games.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, in this division, there's some strong teams. So it's not like you're in the NFC East and you can just decide to develop from there. So I think there are some glaring issues for them to kind of sort out. We'll
get to it, but this is the Browns division.
Yeah, for me as well. But we'll talk about that later. Spoiling it for everyone.
That's a tease. That's not a spoiler. That's a tease. Well, Maddie, I think we covered them all. Anything else you'd like to add? Just cut me off and jump in.
No, I think we're good. I think we've got him.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, like and follow, or like and subscribe. If you're watching us on Facebook, like and follow. And Maddie's going to be dropping some podcasts on different platforms, so you can look out for that. And Maddie, you got any idea what some of the platforms may be for them? Yeah, in weeks to come. So it takes a while before you can get registered on things like Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify Podcast. So they should be on by next week, and it will be the Yankee and the Brit. So if you prefer to not look at us when we're talking, which is very understandable with the hair that we've got going on and things like that, then I think that's a great place for you to listen to it too. And it'll be on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, as well as things like Breaker. And if you particularly want it on any other podcasting things, please feel free to comment below and let us know. If you're listening to this on the podcast already, I'm sorry you didn't need to hear that, but that's fine. Great. Fair enough. All right, guys. Well, if you don't think we suck, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thanks again for watching. One world, one love. Deuces. Cheerio.